Hello, everyone. This is Steve with Aptera Owners Club. So many of us have noticed that gas prices are going up. In the United States, gas prices are climbing over $4 a gallon nationwide. And in California, it's over $5 a gallon. In fact, I just saw a gas station in LA this weekend that had $7.20 a gallon gas. It was in Beverly Hills, but yeah, it's over $7 a gallon gas. And gas prices are going up. And that's not, and we generally have some of the lower gas prices in the world. If you look at this list of gas prices, and this is about a week out of date, but you see these countries, they basically heavily subsidize their gasoline, so it's much cheaper. And then you see USA here, which at a week ago was a little under $4 a gallon. Now it's a little over $4 a gallon. And of course, if you live in California or someplace like that, it's about $6 a gallon here. But if you go to other countries, like most of Europe is heading around $7 to $8 a gallon, and Hong Kong is at $10 over $10 a gallon. So I'm sure all of these prices are up higher now. If you look at the graph of gas prices in the United States over time, we were sitting around a dollar, a little at less than a dollar in the early 90s, up till close to about 2000, with about a dollar a gallon. And then now we're sitting at about $4 a gallon. So over about a 20-year span, gas prices have quadrupled. So if this trend continues, we would expect by 2040 gas prices to be about $20 a gallon. That seems crazy, but people thought $5 a gallon gas was crazy back in the 90s, in the early 2000s. And $5 a gallon of gas is everyone's kind of used to it now. So gas is petroleum is a limited resource, and with inflation and with decreasing resources, gas prices are inevitably going to go up unless we all wean ourselves off of gas and demand plummets. The other thing is, if you look at the leading oil producing countries of the world, a lot of them are a little bit problematic geopolitically. So this may come as a surprise to many people, but the United States is the largest producer of oil in the world, producing about 20% of the world's oil at this point. We'll go a little bit more into that. This is mostly due to hydraulic fracking. Then next is Saudi Arabia, which is not surprising. And Saudi Arabia has some political issues and is not maybe the most stable place in the long term. And then Russia is the number three producer, and of course we know what's happening with Russia. It's Russia's invading Ukraine, and that has been behind much of the recent run up in petroleum prices because Russia is a major producer. Then Canada is another producer. So Canada is a relatively politically stable place and isn't problematic from a geopolitical standpoint, and they are a large producer, but their petroleum is problematic from an environmental standpoint. Then there's Iraq, which obviously has issues. China, there are some concerns with China as well from a geopolitical standpoint, and Iran, and Nigeria. If you look at countries that have large reserves, because the country that has the largest known reserves of petroleum is Venezuela, and Venezuela used to produce quite a bit more petroleum, but their economy and their political situation is in shambles, so they are not producing much at this time. But they have the largest reserves. Next, Saudi Arabia, then Canada, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait. So these are the countries that have the largest oil reserves. And Venezuela, because of their political situation, that's another reason that gas prices in the United States are up, is because we've put an embargo and a sanction on importing importing petroleum from Venezuela. And that's been in effect, I think, for a year or two. And so until recently, we had switched to get a lot of our oil from Russia. And then, but then, now we know the situation with Russia. So anyways, these are problematic. Canada is probably the least geopolitically least problematic source of petroleum. However, Canada if you guys know anything about Canadian oil comes from Alberta, and it's basically comes from tar sands. And if you this is what it looks like. So if you look at this is a tar sand mining pit. It's basically strip mining. They take boreal forest in northern Alberta, and they just strip mine all the trees off of it, and they dig up this tarry sand, and it's very labor intensive and takes a lot of energy and a lot of water to purify it into usable petroleum. And so when they did a study, they found out that it has basically 3 times more pollution than the same quantity of like oil from, say, Saudi Arabia. And because here's how it's done. This is a tar pit in Alberta, and basically they load up the tar into these giant, huge trucks, and the trucks take them to the processing plant, and it's basically tarry sand, so it takes a lot of heat and energy to separate the thing. And you're just basically taking forest that looks like this and turning it into this. And if you look at like Google Maps, you can actually, it's so big, these operations, you can see them far from space. Here's Alberta, and here's Edmonton, which is the major big city where most of the office and white collar infrastructure for the oil industry is housed. But if you look up here, this is where most of the tar sands are. There's a city called Tar Island. And if you look in here, you can see this is all forest. This all used to look like this, but now it looks like this. They've dug it all up and they've turned it, and these are just pools of contaminated water in here. This area is actually about 25 square miles, which is like 20,000 acres or 10,000 hectares. It's a huge amount of land. So not only the land destruction, but just the amount of environmental damage that tar sands mining produces is kind of incredible. Now, because it's so labor intensive and energy intensive, this tar sands extraction is not really profitable unless gas prices are over like $60 a barrel. Currently, gas prices are like $120 a barrel, so it is profitable. But once gas prices drop below $60 a barrel, this is a money-losing operation because of its energy intensive and labor intensiveness. So that's the problem with the oil from Canada. The problem from oil from like Russia is pretty self-evident. In terms of America, we are the largest producer currently. Now, we don't have the largest reserves. And if you look at reserves, United States is not anywhere near the top of the largest reserves. It's number 11. So we only have about 2% of the known reserves of petroleum in the world. Venezuela has the most. But the petroleum that we're extracting now, and we're extracting about 16 million barrels a day, it all comes from this fairly recent development called fracking. And if you guys probably know what fracking is, but basically you drill this borehole. It's pretty deep, and then you do this horizontal drilling, and then you inject sand, water, and a bunch of chemicals, pretty nasty chemicals, into here, and you basically put it under high pressure and you fracture the shale, and that releases the natural gas and petroleum, and that comes back up. Now, the problem is if you don't isolate this bore very well, you can contaminate groundwater, and that has happened in the United States. Groundwater has been contaminated because this bore wasn't protected very well, and people had like natural gas coming out their pipes. And there's videos you can find of people like being able to light their kitchen faucet and things like that. And basically, it takes an incredible amount of water and chemicals that you're pumping into here. Now, it's very deep, so theoretically this should be fine, but there are some concerns that the fracturing could contaminate groundwater. So I always thought fracking was a little weird because we're taking a resource that we absolutely need to sustain life, which is clean water, and using that up to extract something that is necessary for modern society currently, but isn't necessary for life. People live for thousands of years without petroleum, but no one lives without clean water. Anyways, because of all these reasons, it is very likely that gas prices will continue to go up. And I would not be surprised if gas prices in the United States hit $10 a gallon within the next 10 years or sooner. And once you get to that point, in a roundabout way, I think that's a good thing, because then as prices for petroleum products goes up, then our consumption of petroleum products will go down, which in the end will be a good thing, I think. And so I made this uh, Google slide, and I will put a link to this just to look at how much money you can save if you convert it over to an Aptera. And with gas prices going up, that makes even more sense. So currently, the way this works is you should, when you go to this link, you should go to File and say Make a Copy. So you just make a copy, and then when you make a copy, you'll make a copy onto your own Google Drive, and then you can edit it however you want. So you just input like what your daily commute is, and I'll say 50 miles. And then you put in the cost of an oil change, usually about $90, and cost of a brake job, probably $500. And then you put in the current fuel economy of your car, and I will say like maybe you get 30 miles per gallon. Okay. Oh, whoops. Okay, 30 miles per gallon, and let's say the fuel cost is $5 a gallon. Oh shoot, I think let me there you go. Okay, so 30, so let's go, your car gets 30 miles per gallon. Fuel cost is $5 a gallon, and then your daily commute, it gets extracted from here. On this side, I subtracted 30 because I'm thinking maybe you'll get about 30 miles of solar range within Aptera per day, so you're effectively a 20-mile daily commute. Then your fuel cost per day at $5 a gallon, if you have a 50-mile commute with a 30-mile per gallon vehicle, is going to be $8. $8.33. With an Aptera, your fuel cost if your electricity cost is 19 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a little bit higher than average in the United States, but you can plug in whatever your usual fuel cost of electricity in kilowatt hours is. So 19 cents per kilowatt hour. And then, the Aptera goes about 10 miles per kilowatt. And then that works out to 38 cents. So $8.33 versus 38 cents. Annual mileage will be this. And then your fuel cost will be $3,000 for the annual fuel cost will be $3,000 for your current vehicle, $20 for the Aptera. And then if you do oil change and brake changes, like Aptera, generally you're not going to probably ever have to change the brakes because how light the vehicle is and how strong the regenerative braking is. So you're going to save about $3,400 per year. And then let's see what happens if you go to $10 a gallon, which is likely to happen. And then you'd save about $6,000 a year. So your annual cost to operate an Aptera will be $20 versus $6,400 for a 30 mile per gallon gas car. Now, if you get, like, let's say you're driving a huge truck or something, and you're getting 20 miles per gallon, well, now you're looking at $10,000 a year, basically. So anyway, you can move these numbers around, and you can see really, as fuel prices go up, the cost to own an Aptera and to maintain it is ridiculous. It's $20 a year. It's crazy. So yet that is another reason that this will get off of oil, which oil is problematic from a political standpoint, and it's problematic from an environmental standpoint. So it's the faster we can get off of it, or greatly reduce our use of it, is just going to be better. If oil prices were extremely low, Russia would not be in any kind of position to do anything at this point, economically or militarily. But it is these high oil prices that is giving Russia power, and gives Saudi Arabia power and Venezuela power, and these are places that currently have leaders that are problematic. But anyways, yeah. Download this thing and input the numbers. So the numbers you need to input are commute, fuel economy, and the fuel cost in your area, electricity cost and gas cost. It'll calculate everything else, and you can see how much money you would save in a year. At $10 a gallon, basically with a 50-mile commute in this car, you would pay off your Aptera within 2 years. You would more than recoup the cost of the Aptera in about a little over 2 years. All right. Well, download this thing, play around with it. I think it's kind of fun to play around with. And thanks for watching, and have a great day, everyone.